Hi everyone, we are so excited to be sitting down with ELLE magazine to discuss some really interesting things, some really important things. Being a South Asian in some of the industry that we both are in, so we're going to dive into it. We may get personal. I think we probably will.
Really personal.
I'm going to start off by introducing myself. My name is Sonia Mangat. I am an entertainment reporter at Etalk as well as a weather specialist at Your Morning. So I've been up since 3 a.m.
We thank you for being here. Hi, I'm Sonya Singh, and I'm a debut rom-com author. That still feels really strange to say, by the way.
Own it, girl.
I love it. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, I'm excited to have this discussion.
Me too.
It's a really interesting conversation, and it's really funny that we're both South Asian.
Yes.
We both have the same name.
Wait, is that funny though?
Well, see, it shouldn't be because that's how we've been
Yes.
accustomed to look at it that way,
Yes.
right? But you're right,
Yeah.
it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to anytime I meet other South Asian women, it's like there's room for all of us.
Yeah,
right?
I love it. I love it.
So I'm so interested to know about your journey because you were actually doing what I'm doing right now. So tell us how you started and how you ended up here.
So, you know, I was thinking about this on the weekend, and I think that I was one of like the OGs of TV broadcasting way back in the day. And I was looking up to people like Monica Diol, Robin Gill, Karen Johnson. You know, those were the very few South Asian women that were on TV back then. So there wasn't a lot of room, it felt like, for South Asian women to get into broadcasting. There was less than a handful.
Yeah.
And I think when I made my decision to be on TV, it was more of a way of exposing a creative side to me. And I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to be a television broadcaster or an actress.
Yeah.
And I think the easier route, at least to tell my parents, was to give the news, right? And eventually the weather. So I made my way to a national platform, which was the Weather Network. You know, I think that a handful of reporters started there. And then I was offered a job at CTV Ottawa as their weather and entertainment specialist.
Amazing.
And then I came back to Global and did the morning show. I filled in for Pooja Honda. You know, everybody knows Pooja now. And then I was doing the weekend show with Robin Gill. And eventually I went to LA and I started CBS Mobile. I was the first South Asian that they hired to be their face of news, weather, and sports.
That's amazing.
And then I was led to E! News, which is with Ryan Seacrest.
Yeah.
And I was a freelance reporter there as well. So I got the whole LA experience, you know, and I loved the experience of being able to go from Canada to the US because you felt like you made it.
It's a whole nother beast.
It's a whole other beast, and no one actually prepares you for it.
No.
You know? That's where you end up wanting to go. And I think once I realized I was there I was interviewing people on the red carpet and telling stories of people that didn't look like me. And I felt like I was doing such an injustice because I was being pitched by diverse organizations, leaders, and all these amazing stories, and they just couldn't get on television.
Yeah.
And so I decided that it was time for me to leave and get on the other side of things and help those organizations tell those stories and pitch them to those outlets so they would get on TV.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm so curious to know though what your actual experience was firsthand. We're hearing all these stories resurfacing and certain memories that perhaps people have put on the shelf or they just don't even want to think about them, where, you know, they perhaps changed their name because their name pronunciation was a little bit tougher, or, you know, they were told to cut their hair a certain way, hint, hint, me. But, you know, there was a lot of different cultural things that we had to adjust to be able to fit in. So and that's also in my time being a broadcaster for the last 10 years. So you were doing that even before that. So how much more of a pushback did you get?
Oh, you know, what started with change your name. So Sonia is not my actual name. It's actually Stinder, you know, Stinder Singh. And not Satinder, which I know is a very popular Indian name, but my parents left out the A and I was born with Stinder Singh.
Yeah.
And I remember being called into the news director's office and he said, look, if you want to be on TV, Stinder's not going to cut it. You need to change your name. And at the time, my nickname was Sonia, so I just went with that because it was easier.
Yeah.
But I will say that I was never identified as Indian, and nobody actually wanted to touch that story. And I think the only time that I realized that I was Indian and there may not be enough room for me in this industry was, and I can say this now because I'm actually friends with Robin Gill, but both of us were hired and we were hosting the weekend show. And someone actually made a comment and said, you know, is this Omni News? There's 2 Indian women on the show.
Wow.
And I just felt so heartbroken because I heard those words and I never saw it. And then I think when I went to LA, my agent was, oh, well, everybody thinks you're Japanese anyways, because Singh is a very popular Japanese name.
Stop.
So it just, I was thrown into the mix of never identifying as Indian, where I think now, you know, talking about your journey, you actually absorb it. You talk about it. It's something that you like to write in your stories that you're producing and then eventually telling, right?
That's so interesting that you say that you never actually identified with that, where for me, I made it a mission.
Yeah, I love that.
Because I continue to see just such little representation of somebody who looked like me.
Yeah.
And I went, well, why not? You know, but for my journey, it's a little bit different because I was actually a medical lab tech before I got into this. But before that, I was a professional dancer. I did commercials, acting and all that. But I just knew the arts world was just always calling me.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because someone, like, I wish I had some amazing story where it's like, I used to stand in front of the TV and deliver the news and blah, blah. But honestly, someone literally came up to me and be like, you know what? You would be great on TV, like as a reporter. And I was like, oh, okay. I like went and looked into journalism program and I was like, okay, enrolled into it.
Yeah.
And like rest is history, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I was told at Etalk by a producer who's no longer there that you will never be a host here.
Yeah. Wow.
They've never hired.
And what goes through your mind when you hear that?
Well, when they see, to me, when someone says something that is a challenge, to me, I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a challenge to actually now. Thank you for giving me a goal to fulfill. I remember making that my vision and saying, you know what? I want to inspire other young South Asian girls.
Yes.
And let them know that you can do whatever you want. How can I one day, you know, at that point, I didn't know I was going to have a little girl, but that was always a little desire of mine. But how am I going to tell my little girl that you can do anything you want if I can't actually channel that example for her? And that's where my journey started. I went back to Global, went to CTV, and eventually came back to Etalk. And yeah, it was really amazing to come back and do that, you know, full circle and fulfill that goal.
And you got the last word.
Yeah. And,
you know?
And really, to this day, I am the first South Asian woman ever to be hired on Etalk. I mean, you know, it's a great feeling.
It is.
But like you said, just
and you
because
own
it's
it.
me now,
and
like,
I love
I would
that.
like more, right? Why can't it be another person? Why can't it be that? So it's interesting.
And I'm going to touch on that later, that you are so willing to let other people in, or we can talk about that now too, you know.
Absolutely.
Where you want to share that experience and it doesn't stop with, well, I am the first South Asian.
Yeah.
You know? You want to open those doors for others because did you feel that those doors were opened for you by other South Asian women in the industry?
No.
Yeah.
And that's a really sad thing.
I know.
Because there have been moments where I would see South Asian women in powerful positions, but then it was like you were always a threat. And you're like, I'm not here for your job. Like, I just want to learn from you.
I just want to be your friend.
I want to be your friend. I want you to teach me, right? Like,
right.
Mentorship is one of the greatest gifts you can give someone and the greatest gifts you can receive because it's time. It's someone's time.
Yes. Okay, so just backstory. I have never met you.
No.
You know, and I emailed you because I had just watched your story about you changing your last name.
Yes.
Back to your Indian last name.
Yes.
Right? And so that resonated with me and I just thought it was so powerful and that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah.
And you honestly are the only one, I didn't email anybody else, that has ever gotten back to me so quickly that is South Asian.
Interesting.
I know you didn't ask any questions. You just said, how can I help you?
Can we please stop doing that, ladies and gentlemen? Everyone. We need to support one another because I love this proverb. It's like, if you want to go somewhere fast, sure, go alone.
Yeah.
But if you want to go somewhere far, you go with people.
Yeah.
You go with a team.
Yeah.
And the more we stick together, like your success, you know, is my success because I see myself in you and vice versa. And it's like, it would be so amazing if we could just somehow shut that down.
Yeah. I'm also really excited to get to form a new friendship with you,
Me
which I think
too.
at the end of the day, although we kind of met in this, muddy world of
Yeah.
trying to find people that look like each other, I think we've formed a really quick friendship, which is really amazing as well.
And I mean, let's be honest, we have the same name. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, we're like,
And we kind of dress the same. Yeah.
I mean, we kind of planned this, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay. Hey, this was great. We hope
Thank
that you guys
you.
enjoyed this too.